Your notes today are about modeling percents. When modeling percents, you have to consider if you're calculating the percent of a number, a percent increase, or a percent decrease. In years past, when you've worked with percents, you know that they are a fraction out of 100. So, percent increases are situations where we go above that 100. Times when we do an increase would be something like calculating a total with the tax included. So altogether, a total bill at a restaurant with the tip. Another word for tip is gratuity or markups, which is where a retail store marks up the cost of something that they purchased to a higher amount so they can sell it to you and make money. All of these are situations where we go higher than 100% from the original amount. A percent decrease is going to be a situation where we start from 100% and we subtract away from it to get things like the total after a discount. You'll see phrases like sale price when they want you to calculate the percent decrease because that means they want to know the new cost of the item after the discount has been applied. A markdown would be the opposite of a markup, right? So if in a markup we start at 100 and we go up from that 100%, in a markdown we would start at 100% and we subtract away. Percent of is really similar to a lot of the work you did in 6th grade. So if you're asked to find only the tax on an item, just how much the sales tax would be. If you're asked to find just how much the tip would be, or if I have a 25% discount, how much am I saving? Those are situations where you're only finding part of the whole 100%. So in these situations, you would really start from zero and work your way up to see what part of the whole it would be equal to. Words that are associated with a percent of, fees and commissions are a percent of a whole or a part of a whole. So we're going to look at a few examples of how these models work. My screen will jump around a little bit just so you don't have to wait for me to type. So bear with me. In our first example, it says a couch priced at $300 is on sale for 40% off. What is the sale price of the couch? Well, there's that phrase, sale price. And I know when they want the sale price, they don't just want to know how much money I'm saving. They want the total after I've subtracted that discount away. So with a bar model, you need to divide it into equal sections and you need to label those sections. You get to decide how you divide it up. In this situation, because I was looking at 40%, I chose to divide the 100% into 5 equal groups. Here's why. 100 divided by 5 gives me 20. And that means that there are 20% in each of those 5 sections. And I liked that because for this problem, if I'm looking at 40%, I know that 40 is a multiple of 20. I know that 40% would be 2 of these 20% sections. Because I chose to divide my model into 5 equal groups, I need to also divide the $300 into 5 equal groups so that I can label the top of my bar model. 300 divided by 5 is 60. So this tells me that for each section, I'm going to have $60 added as I move across. So this section is representative of 20% of the cost, and that is $60. I just continued counting by 60 until I got to 300. A good thing to do at this point is to check yourself to make sure that your original 100% of the cost, which is $300 in this case, matches up to your 100%. Now, because it's a percent decrease, when I model this, I'm actually going to start all the way over at the 100%. And I'm simply going to shade away 40% of that. And then that's going to tell me what's left, which would be the amount I would be paying, which would be the sale price. So I'm going to start at 100% and I'm going to shade out this section. That's 20% off. I need to get to 40% off, so I know I need another 20% section. When I do that, I can see that I am left with 60% of the cost of the couch, which makes sense because 100% take away 40% would be 60%. And I can also see when I look across this line that that leaves me with $180 of the cost of the couch. So the sale price for the couch would be $180. Here, you may want to circle that, highlight it, however you can indicate to us that that's your answer is great. Example 2. A pair of jeans priced $20 are subject to a 5% sales tax. How much are the jeans? So in this case, I chose to divide this into 10 equal sections. I know that 100 divided by 5 is possible. It would give me 20 equal sections. I'm just going to be honest. I didn't want to divide it into 20 equal parts. That was a lot. So let me show you how I can work with this when divided into 10 equal sections. Once I decide on how I'm dividing it, I'm going to label. So let's talk about that part. So I divided it up into 10 equal groups. 100% divided by 10 would be 10% in each section. So you see that here, I counted by tens. $20 divided by 10 would be 2. So you'll notice at the top, I counted by 2s. This tells me the $20 cost of the jeans was 100% of the cost before the tax was added. Now, is this going to be a percent increase, a decrease, or a percent of? Well, because they say how much are the jeans, they're not just asking me for the sales tax. They don't just want to know how much the sales tax is. They want to know the total cost of the jeans with tax. So that's a percent increase. So right away, I know, I'm paying the full price for the jeans. So all of this is going to be included in my final price. What I want to do now, because I'm going over, I am doing a percent increase, I'm actually going to have to add to my bar model. To keep things the same, let me show you my thinking here. I know that this section is 10%, so I'm going to actually add another 10% size section here, and I'm just kind of estimating it. Now that that's there, I want to label it. So if I'm adding another 10% to it, that means I'm going all the way up to 110%, just continuing to count by tens there, right? And then I want to also continue counting by 2s, which is what I was counting by on the top. So for 16, 18, 20, that puts me to $22. You're probably thinking to yourself, this is not the answer because you went up 10% and the sales tax is only 5. But here's how this could help me. That 5%, if this whole box represents 10%, 5% is half of that. So I'm going to draw a line through this box at about halfway through it. And I'm actually going to bring it down a little bit to show. Well, it didn't go down, but you get the point. So halfway between 100 and 110% would be that extra 5%. So let's fit this in. It might be a tight squeeze, but I am still going to label it. So that puts me at 105%. Let's move it up a little bit. Well, if the tax put me halfway between 100% and 110%, then I know the cost is going to be halfway between 20 and 22. What number is halfway between 20 and 22? I hope you said 21 because that's right. So that means that the cost of the jeans with the sales tax is going to be $21. I could also show with my scribble tool that I continued this into this part of the model as well. All right, let's look at one more example. On a test of 40 questions, Heather answered 80% of them correctly. How many questions did Heather get correct? I took my 100% in this case and I divided it into 5 equal groups. I chose 5 groups here because 100 divided by 5, if it'll let me drag it, 100 divided by 5 gives me equal groups of 20. And I know that 80, that 80% there, is a multiple of 20. So I knew I could get 80% just having it in groups of 5. If you like working it into groups of 10, I've had students in the past that divide every model into groups of 10. That's perfectly fine too. It's whatever works for you. So because I divided the percent into 5 equal groups, I divided the questions into 5 equal groups. 40 divided by 5 is 8. Therefore, I counted by 8s along the top. I'm checking to make sure I've labeled it correctly by seeing if my 40 questions, which is the total number of questions, aligns with 100%. It does, and so I'm ready to model. So she answered of all the questions, the whole amount of questions, she got part of them correct, which would just be 80%. Whoa, I'm looking at part of the whole. So in this case, I'm going to start at 0 because I just want to know what 80% of 40 is. And I'm going to shade until I get to that 80%. So here we have 20%, 40%, 60%, and 80%. 80% on the bottom aligns with 32 on the top. That tells me that Heather got 32 questions correct. Your job now is to answer some of these questions yourself. There's 5 different questions. They're a mixture of increase, decrease, or percent of. Notice that the models are not labeled and they are not divided up. That's going to be your job. So use tools like the text box to label things, use the scribble tool to color, and use the line tool to divide it up. Make sure that you're labeling clearly and highlighting your answers.